Hi, gang. I've got the swoop going on today. I wanted to come to you about astrology, and you know what? The last time I did that, I got like 4 views. No one is interested in this stuff. What's the deal? But I have some things to say about moving from one natal chart to another, because that is a process that I've been doing uh, for many years. I was doing it unconsciously. And then it became a more and more conscious kind of a thing. And in 17, I worked uh, in a very focused way with the eclipses and my natal charts. So I need to explain for those who are just tuning in, and hey, everybody, I feel this is a really very genuine super grin, because somebody who I value so much, who I've learned from, and who I really, really just adore, is now a subscriber of mine. So, gang, welcome Edwin Learn It. He has a wonderful YouTube channel, well, a few of them, and it's learned, like learn plus ard. Edwin Learned. And he's helped me a lot. He's inspired. So, Edwin, you inspire me, and especially the really personal ones that you did. Um, you stay with me. You're a friend of mine, and I really value the work that you've done, because you're prodigious in your work, and I really appreciate just what you do. So thank you, and I'm glad you subscribe. So what I want to kind of flesh out is what has indeed occurred for me, and it is unusual, and but it's been being talked about for a while now by me. I just did a tape, and it's really stunning, and I'm not really sure I can top it. But I wanted to get clear about a few things for people who may not really understand a whole lot about it, but are interested. Okay. I want to start with how I have always felt about these things, and like I've said before, once I finally get some very key information that had to be hidden, it just had to be. Once I get it, it's like finally things make sense, and the more I learn about astrology, finally things make sense. And I've had wonderful master astrologers, but I've never had anyone explain what this really means. Maybe no one could except me. But I'm just using the principles that I'm aware of, and I'm using a lot of different sources, a lot of them from YouTube, a lot of them in written form. I have a lot of astrology books, and it's been a lifelong friend. It's a wonderful science, in my opinion. So the things that I've always known that are weird, and then I get more information and go, oh, that's not weird at all. That makes perfect sense. One is that I never really felt that this was my natal chart. It just was like so harsh and so ugly, and I wanted a 6-pointed star. And I always felt pretty gypped. And when I first looked at it, I remember the very first time I looked at my geometry, and I expected a 6-pointed star, and that I got that. Oh, that's so ugly. I've learned to love it, but it is harsh, it is angular, and there are a lot of trines. So just to review very quickly, before we get into the specifics, though, the other thing, besides not really recognizing this chart, not liking it, thinking ew, pew, is well, it'll come to me. There are certain things that just were always true, but I never had a proof for. And as I progressed in life, I got my proof. So maybe what I'm trying to say is, if you have a deep down bone knowing, no one's going to talk you out of it, A, but you don't have to take crap for it. You can, and it doesn't really matter. If you've got a bone knowing, then you have a bone knowing. And that's just the way it is. Oh, it is that I always knew that I had a twin life. I was living a twin life. I always knew exactly what was going to happen to me. And I mean, it was just in the bag kind of thing. And I don't say, there's only like, there are very, very few people who I'll be really, really honest with about what I see. What I've always known since I was a little girl was my path, because they wouldn't believe it if I told them. So I don't talk about it a whole lot. And the thing was that I was living a different life. And sometimes it was a life that I didn't agree with. I didn't recognize, I didn't fully recognize it. And that feeling got worse and worse as time went on, more acute. And the discomfort grew as time passed, because it just wasn't my life. I realized that another part of the setup for this information is that I had a very interesting event, a light event, on May 25th of 2012, which I've written about, and it's also in video form. And part of that was I had 2 near-death experiences. And in the second one, I was with a circle of hooded, huge white, wearing hooded people with faces that flash, 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 and were glowing. And I asked them who they were, because I was expecting Saint Germain and my buddies, you know. And they said, "You don't know us like that. You know us by energetic signature. That's how you know us." Of course, they can individuate. But, yeah. They then said, going through the eye of the needle, that you're going through the eye of the needle. And you're doing this to discover your own energetic signature. That's the job. And then I came back into my body, and if I'm not mistaken, I puked again. Had flop sweat. Holy my God. Man, oh man. That was quite the event. So it's only now that I realize that that's what I've completed. I did it. Woo! Yeah, I did it. They're not Saint Germain or Jesus necessarily. They are collectives of energy. Collectives of lives, of experiences, of highs and lows, of losses, of gains, of loves, of experience. They're certainly not human, and I represent the humanoid experience. And I understand better my energetic signature. And I'm very at peace with it. And I can, and I do function very aware now. And I was thinking, oh, well, you know, I need to do a class, and I should have a class, living lucidly, and I was thinking, well, actually the class could be called Becoming Deeply Awake, because I could just kind of live deeply awake. And that gets on some people's nerves, but so understand that. And I've learned to modulate my behavior and my thinking around people because they like to stay in the here and now, and there's certain things that they won't abide by, and certain things they like a lot. So, okay, whatever. But that's been tricky. I've learned a lot, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about the astrology things. Now, this is not to, like, put me on a pedestal, okay? But I serve as an example. That's my job, all right? That's just the gig. It's just the gig. The natal chart that I am finished with, that is now has a different, just different, was from February 23 of 1961 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'll just review very quickly for those who don't. I'm going to put both of these charts up on the website so you can access them, all right? My Sun and Chiron and Mercury retrograde in my South Node, they're all conjunct in Pisces in my 7th house. And they're directly opposite. I mean, 11. My North Node, my Ascendant, and Pluto retrograde in my 1st house. It's not going to be the easiest life, girl. In my 8th house, the house of sexuality and all that kind of stuff, Venus in Aries. Yeah. Good luck with that. So not only are my relationships like kaput down the toilet, it's just, that's what it's all about though. Relationship. Oh my God. And I had a human design of a hermit of 2/6. So that meant that approximately a third of life would be lived socially. A third would be lived sitting on you climb up onto the roof and you observe, is what they say. And then the last third is lived as an example. And as an example, you are a teacher, but it's by example. Alrighty then. The configuration has some shocking similarities to what is understood to be Jesus's geometries. And I have a yod in mind that involves the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at a tight conjunction of 25 and 26 degrees. And that's quincunx Uranus in the 12th house. Boomerang is at 23 degrees. The boomerang is Black Moon Lilith in the 11th house at 23 degrees. And the moon in the 10th house, which is intercepted, at 23 degrees. So, yikes. Leo and, yeah, my Uranus is in Leo. And that's all pointing at Capricorn, Saturn and Capricorn. What this tells me is that I was there to just deliver electric zaps on a regular basis, and that I lived a twin life. Much of my natal chart is conjunct. There are conjuncts in the oppositions, and then there's the great conjunction there. So it is a very purposeful lifetime, and it's never one that I thought was very pretty. I see it now. It is like lit up, and it's very pretty, and it is from head to toes. So the head is the head of the kite, and the toes are the long tip of the kite, and it's spinning. And when it spins, it's very pretty. But it's no longer like a workbook. And I like that. So it was a life of loss of identity, of transformation of self, of breaking things apart. It was a Kali lifetime. It was a very deep lifetime, and a profound lifetime. And it was lived by someone who was visited with, it was at very key times, by Jesus, and whose life was one that was entirely spiritual. And it is true what I was told about this lifetime. I was at a place where I was very, very vexed because I couldn't figure out how I was going to do this. I was like in a state. How do I move from one life to another? I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know how to do it. And I found this channeler, and I went in there, and I've described it before. The part of me knew what to do. We built the energy up through the evening, and there was to be 3 people in the chair, and I was to be the third. And so I built the energy up, and I was the third. And when I sat down and he started channeling, he used a different verbiage than he had the rest of the night. And it was what I knew were the teachers, and they had not been with me. They hadn't been with me since 1994, and they were speaking through him. And I said, I don't know how to do this. Please help me, because I know I'm supposed to get done with one life, and I don't want this life anymore. I don't want it anymore. I want my next life, the one I knew I was here to live this whole time. How do I do it? And they calmed me down, and they said, you have lived the life of a master. Why would you want to throw that away? Look at you. Look at your glasses. It's already here. Your new life is already here. It rides with you. It didn't help a whole lot, but it stuck with me, and it was true. This was a process, and I had to leave myself breadcrumbs along the way because it would get very dark. Certainly, with the kind of geometries it was finishing up, it was all about light and dark. It was all about self and other, good and bad, right and wrong. And it went into very deep stuff, and I am comfortable with pretty much anything. But I appreciate that from the time of the event in April of 2012 forward, there was an amplification. It got some legs under it, and it began running my life, basically. My life changed. And I had been readied. I'd gotten visited in 2011. I had started moving. Things started to break up. From about 2001 or 2 until about, I'd say at least 2008, things were really, really dense and dark for me. Really, really hard. I heard lately that there actually was there was some work done by unfriendlies to slow things down a little bit, and around that time period, and then it broke up. And I don't know, my life certainly is an example of that, but who knows if that's the case. All I know is that by 2011, by spring of 2011, I was on different ground. I was feeling better. And then I started writing in March of 2012. Did my first essay. I knew I was on track. I'd already lost my job and been unemployed for a little bit, and I was different. And then that event occurred. So this is what I see is the beautiful part of moving from one natal chart to another. Before, it's just, well, I've got twin lives, and I'm not living my life. I'm not living the life I'm supposed to live. Oh, I feel so unfulfilled. Rather than understanding that, one twin takes the one path, one part of it that they're expert at, and then the other twin takes it up. See, that thing is, I know my energetic signature, and it's not these natal charts. It's the one who can explain to you, kind of casually, how it is we might be picking out our natal geometries lifetime to lifetime, and exposing how a soul might think it through and honor the lifetime that was just lived, and allow it to live on its very best qualities to live on, adding something and not detracting from anything. It's really neat. And yeah, we might speculate about this, but I think that all I know is that I never really felt good about my old chart. And then I saw this one, and holy cannoli. And see, I was supposed to commit. So what happened? I had this big, huge, well, it wasn't a meditation. It was a visitation in late April of 2012, and the message was the son of Antares is born. It was just this very holy moment. It was so pretty. But I didn't even write that much about it. It was just one more sparkly, and it just, it stuck with me, obviously, but I didn't make a big fuss about it. But I kept writing, and I kept writing, and I kept writing. And then it was May of 2012 that I had that huge light activation in my near-death experiences. And 2012 really that was just a stellar year of growth. It was such an important opportunity, and it couldn't be missed. There's so much about this that just couldn't be missed. But something bigger was with me and was part of me after that April event. So I finally had the notion, well, maybe I should look at the geometry of it. Maybe I should look at a natal chart for it. And I started doing that last year. And I realized, yeah, it makes sense to take this on. It's moving from one life to another. And that's the idea behind all of this. So I think I'm going to do that. It makes sense. They said the son of Antares is born, and I know that to be an S-U-N, and I like everything about it, so I think I'm going to do it. And so I've checked the days, and I had kind of settled on the 28th. Finally, I think that they had said it was the 28th, and it's just always been up for grabs, and the date is unknown because it's written in a book cover, and I don't know where the book went. Yeah, I lent a lot of books during that time. So I was supposed to commit and really kind of look at the new geometries in advance of this birthday, since this is sort of the end of it. And I just couldn't. It just wasn't right. It was better than the others, but it just wasn't right. It's not mine. And then I did the numbers for the 29th. And then I punched in the time. I was born 5:43 in my old natal chart. I was born 3:45 in my new one. Because smoke breaks always happen between 3 and 4. So why not do that, right? Why not? And this is the one that I wanted this whole time. It just is. It's what I'd always seen. And fancy that. There's a yod. And like the old chart and the old life littered with 6s. Look at this. 9s and 5s and 11s. It's just beautiful. The old chart has a pentagram. This new one has a 6-pointed star. It's everything I wanted. It's everything I sacrificed for. It's me. And so, yeah, it does help to get used to some of the new geometries because it's just different expectations, different. But I have to remind myself I have been living this for 6 years. This is nothing brand. It's only the awareness that's changing, not the reality of it. And I came with a propensity. I came in with with them overlaid on each other, and they just activate at different times. That's all. I'm a time capsule after all. So that's some esoteric shit, huh? And I didn't feel any grief. It's not. All that's gone. And believe me, I had a lifetime that was laugh out loud funny and break your heart sad. The stuff that I endured and the stuff that I'm just really glad that I moved on. So it's a good thing. And I'll put both of the charts up. I am gonna, as a result of all of this, I am going to. I've decided before I go into surgery, have a little talk with my friend Anne at the Aquarian Foundation. You know, it's founded by this guy who was able to emit a tube of ectoplasm out of his body while in meditation, and the tube could form little fingers, and it would grasp a pen, and it would write. Or the ectoplasm would pool and turn into a human being who would then give a lecture, an esoteric lecture. Yeah. And I was learning about him, and they did a lot of scientific experiments on him just to prove that he was the real deal, and he was the real deal. You know, this is just like, it's just a WTF kind of a thing. And they tested the plasma, the ectoplasm, and they found it to have human cells. And it's like, yeah, of course it would. But I was thinking, because the stuff that I emit is like, and it's like, it looks like smoke, but it isn't smoke. And I've heard it described in Dolores Cannon's books as smoke. It's your soul, so it's nice to know that, oh my gosh, it's really true. The Merkaba is emitting this. It's living human DNA. It's just so cool. And so that guy founded a foundation called the Aquarian Foundation. And there were a lot of channelings. And this is the real deal. This is very pure stuff. And I'm going to sit down with her because she's going to understand the stuff that I lived and I still don't really have full answers for. I still don't really fully comprehend, you know, the knowledge of just being told stuff. And going, what? Just like seeing a quasar on my lunch break and then having to go back up to work. You know, these things happen, and they're not maybe in your realm of expertise. Well, I have somebody who's going to understand these things, and I really want to tell her about them before I go. I think I've been ramping up to it, but I just want to ask questions. I'm so curious, and I think she'll be able to help. And that's really good. I'm really happy to be having these experiences. And for me, there is no reason to fear. There was a lot of reason to fear in the old days because there were a lot of boogeymens, and just the energy was just really super hard. Just take my word for it, that was a challenging chart, and the energy was so punishing. No good deed went unpunished. It was just harsh. And it was all about being silent. And this is all about being happy and being balanced. It's lovely. So, and it's not who I am. See, I thought that the charts were the energetic signature. I did. It's one of the reasons I think I worked as hard as I did on astrology, because I thought this admonition I'd had to know your energetic signature. That's your deal, Kathy. Figure it out. Well, I thought that meant, really, an energetic signature. Well, that's your natal chart. I better know what that's about. And boy, did I figure out a few things. But no, that's not what it is. No, the energetic signature is the signature of the creator thinking it up. It's different, and I think that it, without some amazing upgrades, it's not possible to embody the full expression of that. But if I'm aware of it, then I can embody as much as I can or choose to. So I like the progression. I like what's been going on, and I like offering this to you, not in apology, but in, real interest, and a little bit of awe. It's like, what? This is all fitting together too good. This is crazy. It's just crazy good. So, good for me, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I did it on purpose. Most of my life was spent going, oh my God, oh no, oh. And just not really feeling like I was supposed to be here. And I just never felt really comfortable. I never felt like I was comfortable. And I think part of that was because of the geometry of that natal chart, and partly was because there was a divine discontent. That's what a yod does. It fills you with divine discontent. And I had that in spades. And now I have a beautiful yod, and I'm not going to be triggered quite so often. Holy crap. The one of the biggest points on that old yod was the moon. And it was the crisis point. First the crisis happens, and then there's the response, and then there's the opposition. And how often you get triggered? Well, that would be pretty often if it's in the moon. The moon's always changing. Oh, golly. So, and this other yod I have is very stable and really pretty. And, one of the points is Pluto retrograde. And I love that Pluto is retrograde in the 10th house. I'm just so thrilled about that. It's just the whole chart, my new chart, is really all about speaking. Not teaching, just speaking. But it's the chart of a great person. And it's, as was the old one. I mean, and am I famous? No. Am I rich? No. Am I great? Well, honey, that depends on who you ask. Because there are some people who tell you I'm a piece of crap. And others that I'm incompetent, and others that I'm the coolest thing since X-ray specs or sliced bread. So maybe I'm the best and maybe I'm not, but I'm me, and I'm me all the way, and this is my reality. And I really am really glad that I can share it with you in this way, because it's unedited and right from the heart. And I offer it because of this. The teachers that I had in the early 90s, I went to them asking why. Why am I so challenged? Why is it so hard for me to get along with people? Why do I have the problems I have? with my women and with my men and with alcohol and with pills and with sleep and with my weight and with my parents and with my sister and with my friends. Why is it so hard? Why don't I feel like I belong here? And they said, it's so that people can look at you and say, well, if she can do it, so can I. And I believe that. But it requires a certain softness in your heart, a certain humility. But everyone has the same DNA. You don't need this kind of fully entangled in Akash. You don't need that. You need to just go through the door. And that door is within, is in your heart. Connects your heart with your brain. It connects your eye with your body and your sexuality. It connects your physical vehicle with your higher vehicles. And it engages a higher chakra system, which makes it possible for you to access full DNA activation, if that's your intention. That was my intention. My geometry screams it. I move from the 5th to the 6th harmonic in living, breathing technicolor for your enjoyment, satisfaction, and learning. We all learn from each other. Just like I learned from Edwin and so many others. And I have sort of a rule that if I can't learn something from you, and then I don't want to spend time with you, why would I bother? And maybe I'm just learning how to be more humble. Maybe I'm learning how to be more gentle. Maybe I'm learning how peaceful I am. There's a lot of reasons. Doesn't have to be knowledge like esoteric stuff. Oftentimes I'm learning how to be a better human being because I love them and I want to be the best human being I can be for them. So, the curious part of this is that there's a core that doesn't change, right? Otherwise there would be pandemonium and chaos. Well, it hasn't been the easiest, and there has been, moving from one geometry to another, there is a moment of grand destruction and dissolution, and then a rebuilding. And that's appropriate. That's okay. But there's something holding it all together. Well, that's what they talk about with the Jesus group. It's a group of entities that hold very similar vibration and have a singular mission, right? A soul group, that's the idea behind a soul group. And so I can see these expressions as part of a soul group, and I am that soul group. I can't walk into King Soopers and hand the person my money and say, I am a soul group. That's not going to work. And I'll tell you, a lot of this stuff, like I've always been saying, I don't talk about this kind of, at this level with my homies. Well, there's a couple who will let me. And there's a couple who want me to. But for the most part, no. This is pretty much off limits. We have other things to discuss. I don't know. That used to really get me. but to each their own, I guess. I try to honor people's no's. It's something that I've learned. It's kind of important. I like to have my no's honored. So, something endures, something lives on. And it's this something that I think falls in love and stays in love. Who recognizes souls, not personalities. And I think it's living this as this bigger portion and choosing in personal situations to have an expression that correlates to a certain kind of geometry, a certain lens through which my light can shine, with which I can use to reason and problem solve. Because there are some times when I am so earthbound, I don't even remember that I have a soul. It's a focus thing. It's not a good or bad thing, it's a focus thing. But for me, I focused so heavily on the physical, and I had physical pain until I realized, oh yeah, that web that I know connects everything, oh, it is alive and well. And when it began to get animated, it started talking to me. That's when things got good. So, it isn't too astrology heavy, but it has got some of it in there, and I think that's perfectly fine because it's been a great tool for me. All right, to close, I'm going to tell you about my head, because I got my hair cut again. I really enjoy it. I love it, and it's really cool because it exposes my divot. So I have this divot, and it goes from there to about there, and it's pretty deep. You probably can see it. I had a rollover accident, and I had a very serious head injury after that, which was largely minimized. I had one friend who didn't minimize it and wanted me to get benefits with disability organizations, and it was like, fuck you, I'm not disabled. But then the people around me wouldn't treat me like I was disabled, and that was hard because I was disabled. It took me a long time to get well. It took me a lot of conscious effort, and I didn't want to accept that I wasn't well. So it took me, but I still I process things differently than I used to. I remember things differently than I used to, and I'm just different. I eventually got most of my vocabulary back, although some of the things that used to be like nagging things are now like more prominent, like my dyslexia and word finding things and things like that. But that's been true since the accident, not since 2011 or 2012. So just for clarity. So yesterday, as part of the festivities, I got to see my sister and my dad. And my sister gave me this awesome gift. Isn't that cool? I love phrenology. So I was looking at it to see what is it that got dinged. And it looks like it's spirituality and hope. And I think that's really super cool. And I didn't even know about that until yesterday, but I really had been digging that I could see that. I liked having that exposed. And I really do enjoy having a shaved head. Check this out. I'll let it grow out, but it's just luscious. Right. I hope that you enjoyed this offering and that you learn more about applied ascension psychology and astrology. Selah.